Welcome to the Soul Workspace, a sanctuary for lightworkers, visionaries, and soul-led creators. I'm Andrea, and it's my honor to be of service. Welcome to episode 1. I'm super excited to get this going. I'm in the library in the study room area, and I share this because that's what this podcast is all about. It's about following your soul's nudges and knowing that you have this bigger purpose. And sometimes you have to start very small with what you have. And I just want to share that because I know who's listening. Sometimes we think things have to be perfect before we get started. And I'm just here to say that's not true. So I apologize if my voice goes in and out. As we get going with this, I will definitely get better microphones and get better at this. But we just have to get started with where we're at. And I hope that that inspires you. So I figured I would share a little bit about myself, just so you can get to know me. I am from Nebraska. I did live a few years in Kansas where I went to college, and then in Texas where I ended up meeting my husband, and we have 4 beautiful children together. We ended up moving back to Nebraska where we honestly the big motivation was to be close to family, but to also build our nutrition and wellness business. It was exciting. We've always been, I think, entrepreneurs at heart. And we were doing a network marketing business, and it was great. And I will never talk badly about network marketing. I know there's a lot of, misconceived ideas about it. And I'm not going to say all of them are wonderful businesses, but the one I was a part of, I really do love. And even though I'm currently not really doing the business anymore, I do love the company, and there's a lot of great people. And so we were following the script. We did everything we were supposed to do, and we were doing great. And we came up here and we started opening up brick and mortar businesses connected to what we were doing. And, one thing after another, it just would not take off. We had the mentality, never give up. We did all this personal development, and they say, if you just keep your mind right and you do the personal development and your thoughts are positive, you're going to manifest all your wildest dreams. And I'm sitting here telling you that it didn't happen for us. And I know that there's people out there that it didn't happen for, and there's nothing wrong with you. I kept thinking, man, what am I doing wrong here? Why are we not manifesting what we want? I mean, we would, but then it would fall apart, and we'd build it back up and it would fall apart. And it just wasn't destined to be. And there really isn't that conversation going on, really. They're not for when you're doing the personal development, you're reading the self-help books, you're waking up early in the morning, you're making your vision boards, you're writing down your goals, you're keeping your thoughts positive, you're keeping you're checking it all off, right? But why isn't anything happening? And it's so easy to, look at yourself, what's wrong. And of course, there can be adjustments, we need to make. But that was a really rough time in our lives. But I am so grateful it happened, because I am sitting right here, literally doing what I feel like I am supposed to do. Of course, there's some imposter syndrome. We'll go into that maybe today or another episode, which is huge. But going through that, we did that for 10, 11 years, maybe longer, like 10, 11. And it literally groomed me into the person I am now. Like all the ups and downs, there was lots of downs, but there was also lots of ups. I learned so much about business. I learned so much about working with people. I learned so much about myself. Me and my husband had to work together. I mean, that was tough in our relationship, but it also helped us grow closer in ways. And I wouldn't be able to do a lot of the things that I've wanted to do now that I'm following my soul's nudges and what I want to do and what I'm inspired to do. There would have been a learning curve because I would have had to learn how to run events. I would have had to, learn all these other things that now I already know how to do because I had all that experience, and I could sit and say I failed. And I guess in a way it was a failure, but to me I don't look at that anymore. It was just a time in my life that now I am moving on. And it was a chapter, and me and my husband, we had to grieve. It was different for him than it was for me. He was very much the leader of all of that. There was always a part of me that I was like, it's not something like being a health coach. I love helping people, but it wasn't something I knew I didn't want to do for the rest of my life. But, it was like a vehicle financially. We were hoping to take us to where we wanted to be. And then once we were financially set, I could work on all my dreams. And, it didn't work out that way, but here I am still doing it anyway. Um, but it was for him, it was harder, and he went through like a whole dark night of the soul, and it was so tough, a lot of grieving to finally make the decision to not do it anymore. um yeah, we just it was a slow process for me. I kind of made the decision, I'm not doing this anymore, I need to do something else. And for him it took a while, but my point is, sometimes we get to this place in our lives where it we know we're meant for something different, and it isn't always clear, and sometimes it's messy, and sometimes our lives are falling apart, but it's making room. I'm literally proof that, like, I didn't, and when everything was falling apart, like our business and everything that we thought we were going to create, I didn't think, oh, thank goodness this is falling apart. Now I can do what I want to do. Like, I literally had no idea what I was going to do. Like, I was still upset. I thought that that's what we were supposed to do. Like, I had other dreams. I want to get land. I want to do this and that. And now that that was going to be our source of income, now what? And it was hard too because, I had told all my friends and family, I'm coming up here, I'm opening all these businesses, and I did. And then they basically all closed down. And now I feel like a failure. Everyone saw me. I made all these bold statements. And yeah, it was super tough. But I'm so okay with it now. Like, I'm so grateful, and I honor those moments. And I hope that it brings hope to other people that are going through this. Being a business owner is hard, but a lot of the time, the people that are running businesses, you're doing it because you love it. It's what calls to you. And I really thought, though, that this company was calling to me, and this is what we were supposed to do. So it was a little confusing during that time. And for those that are listening that maybe are going through something similar, or you just have to trust it falling apart. And it's not easy, um, but just know that, like I said before, everything's falling apart to make room for something greater to be built up. And it's okay if you hate it, and to get through it, honestly, you just acknowledge that you hate it, that I accept that I hate this moment, but but I know that there's a greater plan in store for me. And sometimes we just have to survive our moments. Loving it isn't going to make it happen any faster. It just helps you deal with it easier. So it's okay if you don't love it. I absolutely hated that time. It was really rough. But now it's like, I feel like me and my husband are even closer. I see him kind of excited for what's coming. He's gone on to another business. He's helping with roofing, um, and now that we're financially stable, of not making as much as we would love to, but it's interesting how it all played out. And now, like, I don't have this pressure to also help financially. I stay at home with my four beautiful children, and we homeschool, and I just try to fit this in the pockets of my time. I also am a certified forest therapy guide, and I just love nature. It's amazing. We're all a part of nature, and I just want to share that with everybody. I feel like Mother Nature is calling to us to come back to her, come back to our ancient roots. We're already a part of it, and we just have to rediscover our place. A lot of us know, a lot of us don't know, and I just want to be a part of that movement because there will be a movement. I can feel it, and I just want to be a part of that to help people get away from so much of the screens and technology, and look outside your window and don't forget the trees. And so I've been hosting. All of a sudden, I just got inspired to host these gatherings. Um, I've been thinking about it, but I didn't quite know how it was going to happen. In the winter time, I told myself I'll take all fall and winter to get certified online. Not that I totally needed a certification because I kind of already knew, but for me, it just helped with my confidence. And so once, spring started coming, I just was told, I got like a message from Spirit was like, you just need to do it. You're not going to have everything planned out and it's not going to go perfect. And I'm like, okay, I've done events, I've done fit camps, I've hosted stuff. I know how to do this. So I wasn't really afraid to host it. It was more like, how is this going to look? Like when I took the course, it gives you ideas like of how to run a forest therapy course, but it's different when I've never been to one before. And I live in the Midwest. There's just not a lot of that around here. So I wasn't able to join one. Um, and so I just did it. I did it for free because I felt like, well, I'm still learning. So um, we're just going to wing this thing. I made a Facebook event. I wasn't expecting much. Of course, there's always that part of you that's like, oh my gosh, what if this blows up? What if like 50 people show up, whatever, but then I was like, but I know the numbers. I've done events before like this, maybe 2, 3 people, maybe 4, and I'll be happy about that. So I made the Facebook event, and I mean, for some reason, it just kept circulating. I think people kept clicking interested, and then that made other people see it, and more people, women, it was for women only, and they just started clicking and going, and I had like 150 interested. Now that doesn't mean they're going, and then like 24 said they were going, which that's pretty good. I had no website established. I had no Facebook page. I'm just me. I shared a little bit about, who I am and what it's going to look like. And it just was because it's so needed in my community. Maybe it's different elsewhere. What you can feel is needed. In my community, women especially, we just need this. And so I am so blessed. Like 15 minutes down the road is where me and my husband got married, but they don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth, and they have this acreage, and you can just go out there. It was only $20 to host an event, and so just 2 hours, we went out there, and I just followed my intuition. And of course, I had a basic outline, but I knew that it would just come to me, and so it was a little rough. Like all of a sudden, I started to feel nervous. Oh, I didn't even say. So 16 women ended up showing up. Like, holy moly, these women just kept coming and coming. It was wonderful. And then, I'm not really nervous to speak in front of people, but, it happens and they're all staring at me and I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh. And so it was a little rocky at first, not like awful, but of course, I look back and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to do that. We walked a little more than I wanted to. So everyone's kind of like getting sweaty and which isn't like what you're supposed to do during a forest therapy exercise or session. It's supposed to be, slow paced and really just feeling the healing connection of nature and grounding. And so, we circled up. I shared some stuff, my mission, a little bit about myself, and then we did some full body grounding, which is just laying on the mat for like 20 minutes on the ground. And then we went out and I just encouraged everyone to get in touch with their inner child and get curious, observe, look under rocks, just have some time to themselves. And then we, it was like did a nature mandala. some artwork, and then we gathered with some tea and shared, and everyone loved it. So the next go around, I had 12 the second time. It was actually booked. I decided I needed to, I didn't want to do any more than that because I wanted to honor the circle and the sacred gathering. And it wasn't about how many I could pack into the event. It was about the meaning of it and the purpose. And so I had to create to where people had to reserve their spot. And but I'm doing free will donation for this event, because I do need to honor my time, and money is just an energy exchange. And so that's something that we'll go over in another episode about that and asking for money. But I didn't feel bad. I knew people wanted to give back, and so that's kind of where we're at with that. And yeah, 12 ended up coming, even though I did sell out, but two ended up not being able to come last minute. And so it's been great, and I'm just going with it. Things are changing. How do I want to do it? Maybe just one that's a free will donation, the second one a month might be where they have to pay, and then I'm adding a lot more to it. I mean, if you're inspired to do something, just trust that it's not going to always be perfect when you start, and it's not meant to. And you might not have all the details of how it's going to go. And that's okay. Because I will say that when I listen to stories like this, now hearing someone, share a success story is still inspiring. But when I hear how it started so imperfectly, it gave me inspiration that I could do it. If I hear a podcast, or I do a course, and I did a course from somebody, a spiritual person that I love her on Instagram, and it wasn't perfect, like but it was okay. Like, I still loved it. And honestly, I loved that it wasn't perfect. And I have a spiritual teacher that I follow, and he's amazing. And, there was some stuff that happened or whatever that a lot of people were upset about. And I was like, honestly, that doesn't bother me at all. Like, he's just a person. And I think it brings us back to reality, and also what's possible, and that we're just humans. So yeah, that's my story for the most part. But it's interesting how it got started. So, like, I have always loved nature as a little kid. Like, I was this just, oh my gosh, crazy hair, sticks in my hair, playing in the mud, always finding animals to take care of. And my mother fostered that deeply. Like, she was like that too as a kid. And so she was all about, if I find an injured bird, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, put it back outside. She was like, oh my gosh, bring it in. Like, I'm so blessed that my mom was so supportive of that. Um, trying to put together trash pickups at the park. I'm like 10 years old and writing articles to the newspaper because the fair in the county fair was selling iguanas as prizes, and that wasn't okay with me. And I was always an advocate for nature and all of its creatures. But, I got to a certain point where I just started going to school, and, you start being judged and you feel self-conscious. And I started to hide that part of myself. I'm a girl. I'm not supposed to like bugs. That's weird. And so I suppressed that for quite a while. But I did go to college for zoology, so that kind of got to slowly come back out. It was, I was going to school for that. Um, but it still took some time. I had suppressed my inner child and everything she loved to do. And so as I had children and started to homeschool, that really started to come back out. I started to embrace my weirdness and love myself for being that way. And I started a Facebook group where we did meetups for homeschool. It was all outdoor, where I really got to share my love for, the wild and get kids excited. And So it still exists, and we're slowly, that's something I'm kind of still working on. And that's another thing we'll talk about is, why do I create so many of these things and I never finish them? And there's a reason for that. But um and sorry if I'm saying a lot. I'm not a perfect speaker. I'm sorry. So, yeah, I just started falling in love again and finding myself again. Especially after the business fell apart, that's really where I started finding myself again, finding out what does Andrea love to do. And so it's a mix of things. So I started doing that. But then also, when my third child was born, she was a lot of work. It was very tough, very dark place I went because I did not sleep. She would not sleep. So I would go out in nature. Luckily, she was born in the spring, and we would just go lay out a blanket at the park, and she would actually sleep pretty good there. And that's where I started getting inspiration to write. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote poetry and spiritual insights, um, because I was going through a lot of heartache. And that's what helped me really transmute that. Um, and really just, wow, that was so healing, going out in nature and just laying on a blanket. Like, people need to know about this. So there was that. And I did host like one event that was like free. It was just a grounding in nature for moms. And it was very simple. We just like went out in nature, laid on the grounding mat, and talked after. And I was like, I like this, but I don't know yet where I want to take it. And so that's okay. Like, I just was going to sit with it. And I think a whole year went by before I started the next thing. But um, yeah, so then I don't know the time frame, maybe a few months after, whatever. I Penny, her name is Penny. She was like 18 months. We went to this beautiful creek as a waterfall and with our friends, and my son found a snail. And normally I'm like, look, just put it back in the wild. But that snail was so curious. It did not go in its shell. It was like the funniest snail. And I was like, okay, you can bring it home. We'll make them like a really good enclosure. Like, we'll do it right. So then I had to learn how. Well, how do you make like an enclosure that isn't going to go stinky, that has, okay, you need plants. Okay, you got it. It's called a vivarium. It's a living, um, little ecosystem in there. So I started making them and I fell in love. I did it through the winter, or kind of like, in the spring, kind of, whatever, took some time. But then I started making them and loving them, and I just got inspired to share it. So I started sharing with the homeschool community, hey, you can rent my little 4-gallon vivariums. They're snails, isopods. It's self-sustaining, just mist them every once in a while. And it came with like a snail curriculum. And I mean, it was pretty popular. I made a little money. Um, and then it's not that I'm done with it. It just was like, okay, it's springtime. Now what? And and I need to add that I did start to do an indoor forest therapy with the vivarium, and that I did couple people did it, and it was pretty successful. And then now on to the next thing. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm done doing that. It's just now I'm feeling inspired to do in-person nature gatherings now that it's nice outside. And I just have this feeling that I'll circle back to the indoor forest therapy. We're in the Midwest. Up north, it's cold in the winter. We can still go out in nature, but let's be honest, it's going to be different. Not everybody wants to gather in the snow, and I totally understand that. Um, and I feel like something beautiful is just going to be birthed during then too. And I'll bring back the vivariums. I still have them in my house. I started making too many because I got all excited thinking I was going to sell a bunch too, and I didn't. So I had to take some apart, whatever. And that's okay. It wasn't a failure, even though I did, you have those moments where maybe I felt silly. I totally just announced it all over Facebook that I'm now starting this business. What should I call it? Wonder Vibes. I'm going to sell these. And then I haven't posted about it at all because actually I did sell one. I hope it's doing good. um, So, yeah, and I just want to say that because for all of you just that are entrepreneurs and you're living your soul dream and you're just living your dreams and you just want to, you know that you're meant for something big and you're going to make big changes in the world. And sometimes you're just going to start things and then you're going to stop them. Or maybe you're going to come back to it later. You're going to make big announcements, and because you're so excited, right? And then all of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, wait, maybe this isn't what I want to do. We will go over the ups and downs of that though, because sometimes even though you have that feeling doesn't necessarily mean you're on the wrong path. Um, but, if you have a lot of things going on, don't beat yourself up. Don't give yourself the label. And if you are ADD, whatever, I'm not judging, but it doesn't mean that you have this deficiency. What if that's what creating looks like, creating from the soul? Why does it have to be linear or this certain structure? What if it just looks like that? I have all these little things I've created and I just know that they'll come together. Um, at some point. And if some of it doesn't, it's fine. It just was a part of the process. So I think we're going to end here. I feel really good about sharing my story and I hope it was inspiring. And I'm so excited to share more on my podcast. Like, so excited. I just feel like I could record like so many episodes, but the library is about to close and I have family to go home to and I got to make dinner. So it's okay. We're humans. We got to live our life and know that even making dinner is sacred, and folding the laundry or going to work, maybe a job that you don't like right now, but just trust the process. If you have to go to a job tomorrow or you're heading there now, what can you do to anchor more light and love in what you're doing now? And what little bit every day can you work towards what your soul really desires and wants to do? So stay tuned for the next episodes. I will dive into more of how, what that looks like. But oh my goodness, it is my honor to be of service, and I love you.